Okay, just take a look at this. What you're seeing is the Kailasa Temple, and I'll tell you something. It wasn't built. Not in the way you're thinking anyway. This place, it just completely shatters what we thought was possible in the ancient world. So today, let's figure out how on earth they did it.
All right, let's get right to the most incredible fact, the one thing that changes everything. This temple wasn't built by stacking stones one on top of the other. No, it was carved. Actually, a better word is excavated from one single, massive piece of rock. Just let that sink in for a moment.
So, that's the big question, isn't it? The one we're going to explore today. How did they do this? I mean, we're talking over 1,200 years ago with just basic, simple tools. How did they manage to carve this out of solid rock? It's an amazing story, really. A story of incredible faith, mind-bending engineering, and a skill level that's, well, it's just hard to wrap your head around.
Okay, so before we get into the how, we really have to understand the why. Because you see, this was so much more than just an engineering project. This was a deep, powerful act of devotion. It was about bringing a sacred, almost mythical mountain right down to earth.
So the whole inspiration for this place comes from Mount Kailash in Tibet. This is considered the mythical home of the Hindu god Lord Shiva. Now, Mount Kailash is a real mountain, but it's so sacred that no one is allowed to climb it. So the story goes, back in the 8th century, a king came up with this brilliant solution. If you can't go to the sacred mountain, well, why not bring the mountain to the people? He commissioned a man-made Kailash, a perfect replica, so that the divine could be accessible to everyone.
And that brings us to the absolutely incredible engineering. Seriously, the way they decided to build this replica, it goes against all logic. It's completely counterintuitive. And honestly, it's what makes this whole story just so unbelievable.
This amazing technique is called vertical excavation. And really, it is the exact opposite of how we build anything. You know, we build from the ground up. They started at the top of a solid rock hill and carved their way down. It's like sculpting, but on a mountain-sized scale.
So you're probably wondering, how did that actually work? Well, first, they had to isolate this giant chunk of the hillside. Then, with nothing more than hammers and chisels, they started at the very top. They began chipping away, ton after ton of rock, to reveal the temple's roof first. Then they worked their way down, carving out the pillars, the halls, and the very last thing they revealed was the floor.
And here is the part that just blows my mind. There was absolutely no room for error. Zero. Think about it for a second. When you're carving from the top down out of a single rock, there's no undo button. You can't just fix a mistake. One bad strike with a chisel, one pillar that's carved just a little too thin, and the whole project, all that work, could be ruined. The planning, the precision it must have taken, it's just unimaginable.
So how long do you think a project like this would take? A project with this much patience, this much precision? The answer is an astonishing 150 years, a century and a half. Just imagine dedicating that much time to carve one masterpiece from a mountain. And of course, 150 years, that's not one lifetime. Historians believe it took at least 6 generations of artisans to complete this. Can you even imagine that? A master plan so perfect, so detailed, that it could be passed down from a father to his son, and then to his grandson, generation after generation, all working on the same singular, incredible vision.
So, we've talked about the how and the why. Now let's take a walk through this masterpiece. Let's really try and get a feel for the unbelievable scale and the artistry.
The first thing you notice when you approach is the height. It looms almost 100 feet over you. That's like a 10-story building. Standing there, you just feel small. It's a powerful reminder of what humans can achieve with a clear vision and almost superhuman patience.
When you step through the huge entrance, you find yourself in this massive courtyard. And everywhere you look, there are just incredible details. You'll see these massive, life-size stone elephants that look like they're holding the whole temple up. There are these beautiful, intricately carved halls that just pull you in deeper. And right at the heart of it all is the main shrine to Lord Shiva, where literally every surface, every wall is covered in carvings telling stories from Hindu myths.
You know, someone who visited once said this, and I think it's just perfect. Walking through it is like stepping back hundreds of years back into the artistic past of India. And that's exactly it. This isn't just a building you look at. It's an atmosphere, an experience. You really feel like you've traveled back in time to an era where art and faith were completely intertwined. And that brings us to the final part of our story, because even with everything we do know, the Kailasa Temple is still, in so many ways, a mystery. It's a puzzle that modern engineers and historians are still trying to solve, and it leaves them completely in awe. I mean, think about the questions that are still unanswered. How did they pick the perfect piece of rock, knowing it didn't have any hidden cracks inside that could shatter their work? How did they keep everything so perfectly aligned and symmetrical when they were carving from the top? And maybe the biggest question of all, how do you pass a single, incredibly complex plant from one generation to the next for 150 years without any mistakes? These are the questions that make Kailasa such a true marvel.
So when you look at it, the Kailasa Temple is so much more than just a monument, isn't it? It's really a story carved into stone. It's a story of incredible faith, of breathtaking artistry that had to be perfect from the very first cut, and of an engineering genius that just completely rewrote the rules of what was possible.
And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. With all our modern technology, our lasers, our 3D modeling, our powerful machines, could we even do this today? And more than that, could our society commit to a single artistic project for 150 years across 6 generations? It's something to think about, isn't it?
Well, that's it for our look at the incredible Kailasa Temple. I really hope you found it as fascinating as I do. If you did, please do hit that like button, subscribe, and maybe share this with a friend who'd love to see it. It really helps the channel out. Thanks so much for watching.